Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
But now let's get to something that we also expose here a lot on Infowars, George Soros and how he uses his money and power to influence politics. Well, this should be no surprise. Soros's MoveOn group has now gotten behind Bernie Sanders. They gave him the big endorsement. So he's the supposed outsider candidate. He is now being embraced by establishment Democrats. And this is, of course, because Clinton is sliding in the polls. So they, according to their website today, they said, with a record-setting 78.6% of the votes cast by the MoveOn membership, Senator Bernie Sanders has won MoveOn.org Political Action's endorsement for president with the largest total and widest margin in MoveOn history. So one of the reasons the group declares that it's backing Sanders is because his refusal to accept the status quo of the wealthiest Americans using their power to influence politicians, which, of course, is the exact same thing that George Soros does with his money and his power. And he props up groups like MoveOn to foment civil unrest and, of course, to influence politics. But it doesn't really matter what Sanders has to say. All of this rhetoric is meaningless because it's not going to run off the money changers there in politics. For proof of that, just look at the fact that the audit the Fed bill once again failed in the Senate. So they're not going to be able to take these guys out. But let's talk about someone else who is, has no problem fomenting unrest, Hillary Clinton. Well, now we have a new email showing that Hillary was willing to foment Palestinian uprising for political gain. So this is a December 2011 email. A former U.S. ambassador to Israel, Thomas Pickering, was suggesting that Clinton consider a plan to restart the then stalled peace negotiations by kickstarting Palestinian demonstrations against Israel. Pickering described the effort as a potential game changer in the region, recommending that the U.S. undertake a clandestine campaign to generate unrest. Clinton requested that his email be printed out so she could go ahead and take a little look at it. And of course, we've seen George Soros doing these types of things as well. His groups there with the Arab Spring. Now, one of the reasons why I think that Hillary Clinton's polls are down and why they're getting behind Sanders is because of this FBI expanding their probe into public corruption there with Hillary Clinton. And just the simple fact is if this goes somewhere, she is going to take a lot of people down with her. Now, here is an interview that Alex Jones did today with Peter Schweizer. He is the Breitbart News senior editor at large, but he's also the author of Clinton Cash. He was one of the first people who really investigated these donations being made by foreign entities into the Clinton Foundation and how they were able to skirt the law.
Well, so the Clintons have figured out a way. They set up this foundation, the Clinton Foundation, and Bill Clinton hits the lecture circuit. And this is a way to circumvent that. So they can't get African dictators, they can't get corrupt people that are international fugitives to give money to their campaigns. But they can get those people to give to their foundation, and they can get those people to give Bill Clinton inflated speaking fees as a conduit for bribery, as opposed to giving to their political campaigns. And that's what they've done. And the level of corruption, it involves the Russians, it involves organized crime, it involves African warlords. The people that the Clintons have taken money from is staggering and frightening. And what I chart in the book is the connection between the flow of money and an action that Hillary Clinton takes as Secretary of State. And when you see this pattern repeated over and over again, the only conclusion you can come to is these events are connected and these are, in effect, bribes. Well, Alex, look at the recent public corruption cases that we've had. Governor McDonnell in Virginia, or Senator Menendez in New Jersey, or you have the governor of Oregon, Kitzhaber, who resigned. In all of those cases, you had, a few examples where they took money that they legally could take, but they took favorable actions for the benefit of the donor. You've got the governor of Virginia, former governor, who's in jail because of that. You've got Menendez facing charges, and I think these individuals should have been charged. But my point is that what they did, the scale of what they did, is small. very small in comparison to the widespread pattern of conduct that the Clintons have done. The dollar amounts are bigger. The people that they're taking the money from are far more nefarious. The favorable actions that Hillary took as Secretary of State are far worse. One of the cases that I highlighted in the book and that the New York Times, of all people, has confirmed in a 4,000-word front-page piece is the Clintons got $145 million from the shareholders in a small uranium company that wanted to sell their assets to the Russian government. Hillary Clinton's State Department was required to sign off on that deal, and they did. So literally, Hillary Clinton's State Department gave about 20% of U.S. uranium assets in the United States to the Russian government.
Unbelievable.
And the Clinton Foundation got $145 million from the shareholders. In the
I remember seeing that at Breitbart, and then Congress talked about it some, and it wasn't even a big deal, though. None of the other media picked it up. Think about that, folks. A foreign power getting our strategic uranium supply, if that isn't treason, if that isn't sedition, if that isn't espionage, if that isn't just industrial level espionage, I don't know what is. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you can get 6 months free at prisonplanet.tv, but only for 1 more week. Next Monday, the special that only comes around once a year ends. In fact, we've never offered 6 months free before, but I really want to get more people to join and to be able to watch the nightly news, to see the live reports we do, the special reports, all my films, ebooks, and so much more. One person can share their membership with 20 people, and you are funding the absolute very leading edge, the vanguard of the resistance to the globalist operation on every front. We have to have our own platform that is harder for them to censor, harder for the system to shut down. prisonplanet.tv. We put out the daily radio show free with the video and audio feeds at Infowars.com/show. But it is the members that get the nightly news exclusively and first, and the commercial-free video podcasts and audio podcasts that are paying it forward and financing and helping so many other people see the truth when we put the videos on Facebook, YouTube, and it's prisonplanet.tv that finances so much of the cameras, the equipment, the crew, the reporters. You are becoming a prisonplanet.tv member. You get exclusive HD, higher quality, get it first, and then you can download it, share it with friends and family, share your passcode with them, your username. It's a win-win, and then you're helping finance to put it out for free to everybody. prisonplanet.tv.
Another GOP debate is upon us.
When you had the World Trade Center go, people were put into planes that were friends, family, and they were sent back. They knew what was going on. They went home and they wanted to watch their boyfriends on television.
Who else would come back like that at the Bushes and the Clintons calling them criminals?
And
this
the
is
Saudis.
amazing. You guys, go back to your live feeds.
You see, we don't have rights in America. Only the people who are outside of this country have a right. The only right that anybody has is to come live in America, presumably to live off of us if that's what they choose. They can come live off of us. They can come create war in our country. That's their right. But people in America don't have rights.
The first and most important priority of the President of the United States is to protect the safety and security of America.
No, it isn't. You're disqualified. You have an oath to the Constitution, and the oath to the Constitution says, and the Declaration of Independence says, you are created to protect our freedoms.
Right.
Not to keep us safe. They didn't want safety. They wouldn't have rebelled against the strongest government in the world if their first priority was safety. Their first priority was liberty. They created a government to protect that. I'm sick of these people.
If we want to defend the country, we have to defend against who's coming in. And Marco has more of an allegiance to Chuck Schumer and to the liberals than he does to conservative policy.
Do you really think that Republicans have fueled the rise of ISIS?
Yeah, where's she been? Who is she?
The allies of ISIS, the Islamic rebels against Assad, that we created a safe space or made that space bigger for ISIS to grow.
We know what's going on. We know these guys are running ISIS. And when they talk about shutting down freedom of speech, he just repeated the exact same stuff he said in his speech. Even talking about how you don't refer to these people as masterminds, he knows precisely what he's saying. These are a bunch of Morlocks, and the American people are a bunch of Eloi. When they talk about serving America, you're on the menu.
Join Infowars January 14th, starting at 7 p.m. Central for another episode of Political Science Theater 3K.